Hope you have found this video useful. The best way to support the channel and ensure you don't miss our next upload is to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Part 37.16 Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, dear listeners, to Sufi Essence with Hammad Syed. We commence part 37.16 of our spiritually enriching study of Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks. This section immediately follows the ultimate declaration of Prophet Noah's Nuh's sincerity, Equlb, and the magnificent divine response. Verses 76 through 80 transition from the prayer of the individual servant dua to the encompassing act of divine protection and its perpetual spiritual legacy. Having established Noah as the archetype of the Mukla and the chosen sincere ones, Allah now details the reward physical salvation and eternal honor as an undeniable, tangible manifestation of his name, Al-Wali, the protecting friend. This narrative serves as the ultimate assurance for the small, struggling community of believers in Mecca and indeed, for every seeker, facing overwhelming opposition, the true minority will always be preserved, and their memory will never be erased. The core lesson here is the triumph of divine grace over human corruption and the establishment of an enduring prophetic path. Kanzul Iman, Quran, Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks, Chapter 37, verse 76, and we rescued him and his family from the great distress. This verse details the immediate, physical manifestation of Allah's acceptance of Noah's prayer. We rescued him and his family from the great distress wa nayanu walar min al-karbi lam. This rescue is presented as a singular, magnificent act of salvation, confirming the instantaneous and perfect power of al-Mujj, the answerer. Linguistic analysis of wanayanu. The verb najain we rescued uses the plural form of majesty, emphasizing the comprehensive power and efficiency of the divine action. The root unjw means to save, escape, or be delivered, implying complete and perfect extrication from danger. The prepositional phrase Waller and his family specifies the breadth of the protection, though commentators note this excludes his wayward son and wife, establishing that spiritual kinship supersedes blood ties. The rescue was not partial, but total, leaving no element of Carib distress remaining. The use of the past tense emphasizes the certainty of the divine promise's fulfillment. Sufi perspective on al-Karbi lam. The great distress refers physically to the all-encompassing flood but spiritually, it symbolizes the overwhelming anguish and spiritual isolation of facing universal denial and opposition for 950 years. This is the spiritual Carib distress of the Sklik who upholds Toad in a world drowned in shirk and ghafla. Allah's rescue confirms his role as Al-Mujj, the rescuer. The seeker learns that the final reward for Kabar patience is not merely survival, but the cessation of the heaviest spiritual burden, leading the soul from the turbulent L of fear to the Makam of Amna, security. Here the purification of Noah's nafs was tested by this Carib, and his passage through it led him to the spiritual harbor of nafs al-Mugmaina, the contented soul. The spiritual magnitude of this distress is measured by the length of his suffering and the totality of the opposition he faced. The Carib serves as the crucible for Iqalb. Theological significance of rescue. This immediate and magnificent rescue is an absolute demonstration of Allah's name, Al-Wali, the protecting friend, and Al-Wali, the protecting friend, and Qayyum, the self-subsisting sustainer. It teaches that those whom Allah chooses al-Mukla'un are taken care of entirely, their external protection mirroring their internal purification. The destruction of the whole world for the sake of one sincere prophet and a few believers underscores the infinite value Allah places on Iqulb. This is the perfect manifestation of divine love and justice, confirming the power of sincere prayer to alter even global destiny. This rescue serves as a macrocosmic example of the believer's journey from the chaos of ego nafs al-amra to the order of divine presence. Legal, jurisprudential insight. The rescue of the family, excluding those who disbelieved like his son, establishes the jurisprudential principle of walbia guardianship, friendship being based on faith emin, rather than mere biological ties. Faith is the defining criteria for inclusion in the saved community, emphasizing the superiority of spiritual bonds in the Dion. Hikam, aphoristic interpretation. The Sufi saying, when the heart is sincere, the universe becomes its servant, finds its ultimate external proof here. Noah's purity brought about cosmic upheaval for his deliverance, showing that the power of sincerity outweighs the power of nature and human consensus combined. The cherub itself became the means of his exaltation, teaching that difficulty is often the pathway to salvation. Kanzul Iman Quran, Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks, chapter 37, verse 77, and made his progeny the only survivors. This verse establishes the most profound legacy of Noah. He became the second father of humanity, ensuring the continuity of the prophetic mission, and made his progeny the only survivors. Waya elne doriatar hemu el bakuin. This transformation of Noah's lineage into the enduring human line is a divine miracle and a spiritual watershed moment in history. Linguistic analysis of Waya aun. The verb ya-aun we made indicates the decisive, sovereign act of creation and determination. The phrase himu elbikuin korhal they, the ones who remained, uses a strong pronoun to emphasize exclusivity and permanence. Every human being tracing their lineage post-flood acknowledges this divine selective act, meaning the existence of the entire human race after the flood is predicated upon the iqlub of one man. The focus on al-Baboon highlights the transient nature of the opposition and the enduring nature of prophetic truth. Sufi perspective on spiritual continuity, while literally about bloodline. Sufis interpret Duriatar, his progeny, as the spiritual inheritors of Taud. Noah's ultimate triumph was not just physical survival, but the preservation of the monotheistic seed. All prophets, from Abraham to Muhammad, peace be upon him, are spiritual descendants of Noah, carrying his fundamental message of sincerity. The Sklik is reminded that the truest legacy is not wealth or power, but the enduring transfer of pure, unadulterated faith emin to the next generation. This continuity affirms Allah's name, Al-Rith, the inheritor, ultimate possessor, because he alone determines what endures and what is obliterated. The spiritual descendants are those who inherit Noah's makam of Aber. Theological significance of al-Baboon. This term links Noah's human legacy to Allah's own attribute of al, Bat, the enduring one. By making Noah's lineage the enduring line, Allah conferred upon him a unique honor that physically connects him to the Dion al-Kak, the true religion, until the end of time. This shows the boundless karma, honor, dignity Allah grants to his chosen slaves. This act of preservation is the absolute refutation of the concept of spiritual extinction for the sincere minority. The divine determination of who remains speaks to the active role of Al-Quda, the powerful in history, whose will supersedes all human attempts at annihilation. Legal jurisprudential insight. This verse is sometimes cited in discussions of istisla public interest, where the preservation of the whole kulayut is prioritized over individual claims, demonstrating the divine decree for the continuation of humanity through the righteous. It justifies the collective memory of the Ummah being centered on the prophetic line. Ethical historical insight. This reversal of global fate demonstrates the principle that the smallest group upholding the greatest truth can reshape the entirety of human history, a direct challenge to the Quraysh's belief in the power of the pagan majority. It is a historical testament to the power of Taud over kufr disbelief. Kanzul Iman, Quran, Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks, chapter 37, verse 78. And we left for him a good name among the later people. The rescue now transcends the physical to the spiritual and perpetual realm of reputation. And we left for him a good name among the later people, Watarak, Ali F.L. Kiran. This good name is not mere fame, but an enduring blessed memory that serves as a continuous spiritual fountainhead. Linguistic analysis of Tarak Nalai. Tarak Nui left denotes a deliberate, lasting establishment by divine decree. The phrase alaya upon him means concerning him. It carries the connotation of a permanent spiritual legacy affixed to his very being. The term Ethel Kiran among the later people confirms the universality and perpetuity of this honor until Yom el-Qiyamah. The remembrance of Noah is therefore mandated by Allah. The quality of good Tanagli signifies purity of reputation, untouched by the malice of the disbelievers. This is the reward for the Prophet's consistent dawah which, though initially rejected, found its ultimate vindication in history. Sufi perspective on a good name Tana. The good name is the eternal spiritual acknowledgement of Noah's Makam station as a prophet of Ulul, Azam resolve. For the Sufi, the greatest reward is not material, but the attainment of divine acceptance kubwel, which manifests as eternal, blessed remembrance by all believers who follow. This remembrance is itself an act of grace and a confirmation of his status as muklak. It speaks to the yearning of the heart for Shuddit, Alsak, the witness of truth. This spiritual Tana acts as a continuous source of reward for Noah, an unending spiritual currency Kadakadriya attached to his name, proving that a life lived purely for Allah earns spiritual immortality. Cross-referencing divine names. This act reveals Allah's name, Al-Hafs, the Preserver, who preserves the memory of his friends, and Al-Majid, the Glorious One, who elevates their status perpetually. It also highlights Al-Mu'i, the giver of life, as the remembrance of Noah keeps his spiritual teaching alive. Allah ensures the good memory of the sincere can never be extinguished by the passage of time or the corruption of the wicked. This perpetuation is an eternal kindness, Al-La-F. Legal jurisprudential insight. The verse implicitly endorses the religious value of a good reputation Kate achieved through piety, making it a desired reward in this life that extends into the next, and thereby encouraging Ikob over Rioshof. Seeking a good name in the eyes of Allah and the righteous is a praiseworthy aim. Hikam. Aphoristic interpretation. The reward of Ikob is immortality, means the sincere deed never dies, and the sincere person lives perpetually in the memory and prayers of the Ummah. Noah's memory is a continuously flowing act of worship, a testament to the purity of his intention. Kanzul Iman Quran, Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks. Chapter 37, verse 79. Peace be upon Not among the worlds. This is the climactic, explicit declaration of divine salutation and benediction. A perpetual blessing bestowed by Allah, peace be upon Na among the worlds. Salman. Al-Banu in FL. Glomna in FL Glomnu. Linguistic analysis of Salman. Psalm, peace, safety, completeness, is an inherent name of Allah as-Salm. To invoke Psalm upon someone is to cover them perpetually with divine safety, blessings, and perfection. The indefinite noun, Salman, indicates an unparalleled, vast, and perfect quality of peace. Encompasses Salma, integrity, Amin, security, and Wuma na, tranquility. It's covering him from all spiritual, psychological, and physical harm. Sufi perspective on Psalm. This is not a mere greeting. It is an eternal spiritual state. Salman al-Banu means Noah is eternally protected from all spiritual and physical calamities, and his soul rests in perpetual spiritual tranquility. For the Sklik, this is the highest spiritual state, the achievement of absolute. Salma, integrity and peace in this world and the hereafter, which is the reward for the purification of the nafs to the stage of nafs al-mug mayana. The phrase fl glamkane among the worlds makes this blessing universal, pronounced not only by humans, but by angels in all creation, in all dimensions and states of existence, cementing his spiritual rank. Theological exaltation. This divine salutation is parallel to the blessings, recited upon the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and is an act of supreme veneration from Allah. It affirms Allah's attributes. Of Albar, the source of goodness, and Al-Muqaddim, the advancer, showing his preference for those who uphold Tawhid. This is the divine assurance of Mahabba, love for the sincere. Legal, jurisprudential insight. This verse is used as evidence for the permissibility and virtue of sending salutations psalm upon the prophets, collectively and individually, establishing a sunnah of honoring the messengers of Allah. It highlights the juristic duty to hold the prophets in high esteem, free from any calumny. Ethical implication. Every time a believer recites this verse, they become a participant in the divine honoring of the Prophet Noah, solidifying their connection to the chain of Iqlb and prophethood. It is a compulsory act of honoring the prophetic lineage, creating a continuous bond between the current Ummah and the previous messengers. Kanzul Iman, Quran, Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks. Chapter 37, verse 80. Verily, we reward the doers of good in this way. This verse concludes the episode with a universal spiritual principle, generalizing Noah's experience to all sincere believers. Verily, we reward the doers of good in this way. In Kod Lika, Naj Kel, Mu Sinin. Linguistic analysis of in Kod Lika. In Verily we is the highest form of affirmation, underscoring the absolute truth and certainty of the statement. Kod Lika in this way refers back to the magnitude of the reward given to Noah, magnificent rescue, perpetual legacy, and eternal psalm. The reward is proportional to the spiritual perfection of the deed. The verb naj, we reward, confirms that the relationship is transactional and based on divine justice and generosity. Sufi perspective on al-Muhsinin. Al-Muhsinin, the doers of good, refers to those who have achieved ihsan, the highest rank in Diyan, defined by the Prophet, peace be upon him, as to worship Allah as if you see him. And if you cannot achieve this state, then know that he sees you. This state demands absolute spiritual presence, purity, iklob, and devotion. Noah was the perfect muhsin, and thus received the perfect reward. The path to achieving this ultimate reward is only through the makam of ihsan, which transcends mere obedience ilm and emin, to reach the realm of spiritual excellence. This provides the sklik with the assurance that excellence in effort jad is met with excellence in reward, jazak. Cross-referencing divine names. This statement affirms Allah's name, Ashakir, the appreciative, who rewards even the smallest sincere action with immense bounty, and Al-Wab, the bestower. Allah does not let any sincere deed go to waste. He rewards the excellent with excellence, far exceeding their effort out of his sheer generosity and full grace. The promise is a manifestation of al-Haq, the truth. Legal jurisprudential insight. The verse establishes a divine rule qaida. That reward is directly tied to ihsan excellence, encouraging meticulousness and sincerity in all religious and worldly duties, ensuring that the highest spiritual quality receives the highest return. This verse mandates striving for excellence in all spheres of life, not just ritual. Hikam aphoristic interpretation. The reward is a guarantee. The one who strives for ihsan will receive the same type of magnificent, eternal honor that Noah received, teaching the sklik that the door to this level of divine proximity is always open through sincere effort, and the pursuit of spiritual excellence, regardless of the historical period or personal isolation. Hadith, the station of sen, excellence. The concept of al-Muhsinin is integral to the Islamic spiritual path, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, defined its essence. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, in what is known as the Hadith of Gabriel sen is that you should worship Allah as if you see him, and if you cannot achieve this state, then know that he sees you. Related in Sahih Muslim. Hadith contextualization and analysis. Sufi emphasis, ihsan as the pinnacle. This hadith defines the spiritual station that the Muhsinun achieve. It is a state of perpetual muraqabah, vigilance, and mushahada, witnessing spiritual presence. Noah's 950 years of steadfast dua in the face of despair were the ultimate expression of this sen, acting always as if he saw Allah, resulting in the magnificent reward promised in verse 80. The Sufi goal. The Sufi path is the practical methodology for achieving ihsan. It involves disciplining the nafs to move beyond the self-serving motives of nafs al-amra and attain the serenity of nafs al-mugama, which is the necessary prerequisite for achieving the spiritual witnessing inherent in ihsan. The process of tazkiyah purification is the direct route to being counted among the Muhsinin. We conclude part 37.16, in which Allah states, and we rescued him and his family from the great distress. He further confirms, and made his progeny the only survivors, and declared, and we left for him a good name among the later people. The climax is the eternal benediction, peace be upon Na, among the worlds. This is generalized to all. Verily, we reward the doers of good in this way. May Allah grant us the ihsan of Noah, and make us worthy of his magnificent reward and eternal psalm. O Allah, Al-Mujbe, and Awali, grant us rescue Nod from the great distress, Karbi, La of this world, and the hereafter. Make us of the Muhsinin, those who worship you with absolute ihsan and equaled. Bestow upon us the eternal psalm that you granted Prophet Noah knew, and secure our spiritual and physical legacy in Tawd. O Allah, fulfill your promise, and reward our sincerity in a manner most befitting your name, Ashakar Amin.